So I watched a show um, on Netflix this weekend, and it was a very dark show. At the end of it, I ended up feeling just really sad and pretty rotten, actually, because that's the kind of show it was. And I was just observing that, in spite of it being so self-evident that it's not real, it's just a work of fiction, it's somebody's imagination. mm, the emotion um, associated with it was so strong that no amount of intellectual discernment or awareness or inquiry was able to make it apparent to me that I'm not that emotion. I just felt it for a while. In fact, it took a couple of hours for it to subside. So the intellect is quick. In fact, I don't even need the intellect. It's just self evident, it's obvious. But still, the emotion feels like a riptide. It seems like it has the power to just take me away from who I am. So I don't know what the question is. It was just an observation, and it's also something that I was a wonderment to me.
Yeah,
And just wanted to ask you about your thoughts on that.
thank you. Thank you. And wonderful observation. And it's great if you can have these kinds of observations in your life and see how it ties in with the spirituality as well. So yeah, and I think the question, the observation essentially is, wow, first of all, I know it's not real. It's having a real effect on me. And the second thing is, intellectually, I know what's going on, but emotionally, something else is happening. Emotionally is not, it's not joining up or working with my intellectual knowledge. The emotions are going in a different direction. They're saying there's something else going on there. And then the question is, which the unstated question is basically, how do I deal with this? Is there a way through this? I guess the question could be, how do I solve this problem? Another way of looking at it is, so how can I solve this problem of a negative emotion arising? Another way of looking at it is it a problem that the negative emotion arises at all? And then you're not assuming it's a problem that needs to be solved even. You're just inquiring into, what is this phenomenon that's arising? How healthy is it? How unhealthy is it? Is it normal? Is it useful? Is it physiological? Is it human? Or is there something else going on, and can it be changed, or can I improve my function anyway? So that's the kind of way I'm hearing what you're saying, Swati. Can I ask you to go on to mute? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And you're welcome to unmute yourself anytime if you want to interrupt or interject, or if I'm going off course or something. So first of all, that observation that fiction can have such a profound effect on us is really useful, because it helps us understand Maya. Maya meaning illusion. And a very simple example is the example of a dream, especially we have a nightmare, a bad dream. Most of us have had the experience of something like that, where we know it's not real, but even when you wake up from a very bad nightmare, it can send waves into your waking state for some time. It can affect you, even though you know it's just conjured up by the mind. So it's useful to see how fiction can affect you. Then there's the disconnect, let's say, between what the mind is saying, the intellect saying, what your emotions are saying. Now, this is an area of inquiry. But when we say inquiry, we're talking about inquiry into your emotions now. And inquiry into emotions requires opening yourself up to feeling states. So you might have an irrational fear, for example. You might be afraid of a front door of a house that's colored yellow. Any front door that's colored yellow, for some reason, you feel you have this irrational fear. Every time when you're walking down the street, if it's a red door, you're fine. If you're walking past the blue door, you're fine. If you're walking past the green door, you're fine. And then you see a yellow door on a house, and suddenly you start freaking out. You start getting a panic attack. And your mind says, this is irrational. Tom, you're being stupid. Why are you panicking about a yellow front door? It's just a front door. You've got nothing to be worried about. But the body starts panicking. And then you might try and wrestle yourself intellectually. You might say, come on, grow up. Stop acting like a child, or be rational. This is not, you're not being very rational here. This is not making sense. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you might try and rationalize things and sort it out this way. But your emotion is telling you something. There's information being given to you. When you have a panic attack every time you see a yellow front door, that's information that's being given to you. Something's happened in your life. Probably. That has meant that you are afraid of yellow doors. Maybe when you were young, you were insulted or offended, or even you were hurt. Maybe somebody hurt you, physically hurt you, and there was a yellow door there. And that is etched in your mind. And say you were hurt and there was a yellow door in the vicinity when you were hurt. The body might try and protect you from being hurt again, and associating you being hurt with a yellow door. And every time it sees a yellow door, it's trying to protect you from being hurt. So it's subconsciously, your mind saying to you, stay away from yellow doors. That's the message your subconscious mind took. Okay, where am I going with all this? Yellow doors, panic attacks. What's he talking about? Okay. If you have irrational fear to yellow doors, you can try and rationalize it away. Or you can say, this is information coming my way. You can go into it and you can discover what your subconscious is saying to you. And you can heal yourself deep, deep within. And then you can discover, oh gosh, I didn't realize when I was 5 years old, somebody tripped me over and hurt me and there was a yellow door there. And this is why I've now got this, what I thought was an irrational fear of yellow doors, but actually there's some kind of logic there. And then you can heal yourself. And then you're no longer afraid of yellow doors. You see? As opposed to, this is silly, this is irrational, there's nothing to be afraid of, Tom, and try and talk yourself out of it. So same thing, if you've had an experience, in your case, it was Netflix, but it could be anything. You've had an experience and it's affected you emotionally in a way that doesn't rationally necessarily make sense. There's information coming to you. There's information coming to you. It's telling you, it's emotional information about your past emotional experiences. And you can go into that. You can learn, well, why do I feel this way? Why did this make me feel so unhappy? Why did it not just make me feel unhappy for 5 minutes afterwards and then I was fine? Why did it linger on for a few hours? Maybe there's nothing abnormal there. Maybe there's nothing untoward there. Or maybe there is. This is something you can explore emotionally. often there'll be some kind of suppressed emotion from our past. And these things that occur are opportunities for us to explore those, maybe. It can be a very worthwhile exercise going into these emotions, allowing yourself to feel the emotions, and then allowing yourself to think the thoughts that go alongside those emotions. For example, you might feel panicked, for example, and then there might be a thought that goes along with that: I'm really scared. In that example, the feeling of panic and the thought I'm scared are pretty similar. But it's also worth distinguishing between the feeling and the thought, and seeing and understanding both of them. So that's my reflection on what you just said to me, Swati. What do you think? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's something that I can use to explore further. Yeah, there are, just like with dreams too, there are some dreams that might just linger on, and maybe it's the content and something underlying it that makes it linger that long. But yeah, the other thing was also just emotion generally feels like it's something that's just slower moving than thoughts. Like thoughts seem to be quick. Emotions just, I think, I don't know, I felt that it just takes its time with coming and going.
Yeah, it can be like that. It can be like that. What I found is that as my emotions have become more purified, they go quicker. They don't stick around. They don't leave any kind of residue. But again, often when if emotions are being suppressed, and I'm not saying this is the case with you, Swati, I'm just putting it out there for everybody. Often when emotions are being suppressed, they linger for longer. You know, it's like the difference between, there are some people you meet, and if they get annoyed, and then 5 seconds later they're back to the same again. And then the other person you meet, you annoy them, and then they're annoyed for the whole week about that one thing. You know, or they'll bear that grudge towards you every time you see them for the next year. You know, because you did that one thing that you probably didn't even mean to do like a year ago, and they'll keep on bearing that grudge. Now, the people who are holding the grudge, they've often got their own issues that are unresolved, and they don't realize that. If you go back to my analogy about the irrational fear of a yellow door, can you see how it would be detrimental to try and just push away that fear, as opposed to going into it and realizing there's a deeper fear, maybe a fear of being hurt, you know, in that case, and then healing that, and then the yellow door fear goes. You can see that. Can you see the difference in terms of the final product? You might get person A who's afraid of yellow doors, just going, look, stop being afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just an irrational fear. Stop it now. And just suppressing that fear and marching through life and maybe succeeding. And person B who's afraid of yellow doors, saying, okay, this is some information coming to me. Let me go into that. Oh, I've discovered that I was hurt very badly when I was 5 and there was a yellow door there. And actually, I'm not afraid of the yellow door. It's that association with that hurt. Let me go into that. Let me heal that. Let me deal with that. And then march forward. You see that the two outcomes might superficially look the same, but one is deeply healed from within. The other one is superficially plastered over enough just to get on with life, but actually underneath there's all this unhealed stuff. And in both cases, or we can say in the real case, there's nothing really to do with yellow door. It's always to do with hurt and trauma, emotional trauma. So the idea is not just to get you to good functioning in daily life, or, you know, as good functioning as you can, but to heal you deeply, so that functioning is coming from a good place through and through, rather than just superficially, yeah, you can get by, or something like that. Feelings give us so much information. Emotions give us so much information about ourselves. Where the mind can lie or convince, the emotions tell us a deeper truth. And we ignore them at our own peril. If we ignore our emotions, the information they're giving to us, but they don't talk to us in a logical way. For example, the yellow door thing. It wasn't about the yellow door, it's about hurt, it's about trauma. But if you allow them to speak to you, they will reveal a story to you, like a child might tell you a story. If you listen to children tell stories, they talk about all sorts of things, you know? They talk about this and that and that and that. And eventually there might be something in there that has some real deep meaning to that child. But you've had to listen to all this other stuff first, you know? And our emotions can be like that. They can take us around the houses. The yellow door. I don't know. I don't care about yellow doors. There's nothing to be afraid of yellow doors. Why are you talking about yellow doors? But if you allow it to lead you and you follow the emotion, it will tell you a story, and then it will reveal something to you. It takes time and patience. And self-love. Self-love. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Swati. I really do appreciate that. It's really, I think it's beautiful insights, and yeah, thank you.